Hello again. My name is Dr. Bill Johnson, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Exploring Our Schools. Today we're going to focus on what has become just a really wonderful part of life at Southside High School, and it is the opportunity for many of our students to participate in IB Art. So, in pursuit of that, I have invited a couple of people with me. Keith Gamache, who is a long-standing art teacher here at Southside High School, and is also the academic facilitator. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Basically means that you coordinate basically all of the art department.
Yes.
And the work. Right?
Yes. Thank you for having us on the program again.
Good. And we have two seniors who are really very actively involved in IB Art. Carolyn Salzer, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And Kenny Zhou, thank you very much for joining us. So I'm going to start with you if you don't mind.
Sure.
This has been an evolutionary process. It just didn't happen. So maybe if you could just kind of spend a few minutes talking a little bit about your experience with IB Art, how you've seen it evolve over the years,
Sure.
and what you're doing right now with some of the kids.
This is my 21st year here at Southside, and when I
Ouch.
started, we had a program of 18 seniors sitting for the IB Art exam. And this year we have 45 students, two of whom are sitting with us today. It's gone through several different changes over the last 21 years, some shifts in some of the components of the criteria and what's expected of the students. At the same time, a lot of it remains the same. It's a highly individualized curriculum and 2 years worth of work of the students. And it's a combination of studio work and what's called an investigation workbook, which is where the students investigate and explore artists and topics that are of interest to them.
So let me back up a second and ask just of both of you, why did you get involved? What pushed you or got you inside of your head to decide to participate in IB Art?
I think I signed up for IB Art because I've always loved art, and that's like, it was kind of a no-brainer to just like take the next class that was available, but I didn't realize like when I signed up how the program it's like so different than what I thought, but it's definitely worth it.
But it starts in the middle school, I guess, right? With
Yeah.
studio and art. So what happens when you come to Southside High School? What do you do in your first and second years?
You can take photography or computer graphics or painting and drawing 1, which goes to painting and drawing 2, or sculpture and ceramics 1 to sculpture and ceramics 2. And then by the time you're a junior, like I personally took all of that in the first 2 years, and then I had nothing left to take, so I took IB Art.
Except IB Art. Kenny, how did you?
Well, I've been in the art program for a long time. Like Caroline, I took a lot of the art courses before IB Art. Now, what's interesting about IB Art is it's not like what the teacher tells you to do. It's what you want to do. And these are your projects.
Uh-oh. Is that, do I detect a sense of, I'm not sure what? Is there?
No, not at
some
all.
tension there?
And to not leave people thinking that the teacher doesn't play a role in it. But one of the great things at this stage is the teacher in the school provides a structure for the students to follow. We introduce material to the students via websites and movies that they watch. We make book recommendations for them to read and consult. But the actual development of concepts and choice, that becomes that of the student. So they are, as juniors and seniors, working the way that real professional artists are working. They come up with their ideas, they consult, they interact with peers, they have critiques, they get input from the teachers. So it really is a great blend of teacher direction and the student being a real active participant in their learning.
Yeah, but somewhere inside of you, you feel that you're in charge. I mean, so for you to say that, I mean, obviously, I mean, whatever you may have responded, there is that sense within yourself that you're in charge.
Yeah, well, it's a different experience because all the process of art making is even different than previous art classes. Like we're researching, we're using our research and in whatever topics of interest, and that will influence the works that you do. And that blends nicely with I know Gamache likes the what's that Austin Kleon guy? 10
Right.
things. 10 things every creative person should know but often forget. no, you realize this, all your artwork is, you have to ask, what is original, right? Does it have to be like all created by you? Like you're using previous ideas to build upon your current work. And this is what's really fascinating. It's like you can take previous things and you can make different combinations, and they're still creative, they're still new, and it's still your work.
Feel the same way?
Yeah, I think that, like, similar to what Kenny was saying, the program, it's very fluid. Like, it's your consciousness, like what you want to make is you just do it, and then you have research and your teacher is backing you, so you can have, it's more of like a conversation than a lesson about your work.
But at some point, I mean, when you do the research, now maybe we could just explore a little bit your particular interest. Where do you feel you're headed?
Well, I started out doing some two-dimensional like drawings, and I ended up moving towards video work and sound work and like performance art. So I think right now I'm headed in that direction, but I don't know, because like 2 years ago I never would have thought I would make anything similar to what I'm doing now.
So how do you report this in your workbook? What do you do?
I have a lot of photo documentation that I've just gotten in the habit of taking pictures while making the work, so it's like the process is becoming equally important as the finished product, because it's like you don't even have, I mean, you have a finished product, but it's like the art is within all of it.
So where do I find you in your work?
Well, I'm physically in my work. Like my body, like I use myself to make the artwork sometimes.
Oh, you do?
Yes. But it's also like my mind pretty much. Like I'm constantly thinking about my artwork and my projects, like what I'm going to do next and how I can improve upon it, and that's just like what it is. It's just myself, I guess, in a physical form.
Caroline is also extremely modest. Caroline is constructed, and with the support of her parents as well, who have been extremely supportive of Caroline's interests. She set up a studio in her home and in her garage, and it's become her space. So she creates installations there, she does her video performances there, and as she mentioned, she documents all of that and brings it in. And in the classroom, a lot of times she's working out her conceptual ideas. She's doing sketches to keep track of her mind and find different ways to represent that. And Kenny, and there's a reason why I chose the two of them to come onto this program, they really represent the diverse students that enter our program. Caroline coming up through sculpture and ceramics, but also taking painting and drawing. And Kenny has a strong background in digital media and also has worked here in the TV studio as well. So our program is rich and diverse in the types of pathways that students can enter it. At the top of the show, you mentioned starting in 8th grade, but we also have opportunities for students who don't reside in Rockville Centre the whole time, or who might come in and enter Southside from the parochial school system. They still have access to the program. As long as they have 2 full credits in art by the time they're a junior, they're able to come into the program if they say, that IB art, that looks interesting, can I be a part of it? And the answer to that is yes. And the results we get to see here in front of us.
So getting back again to the same question that I would say, yes, I'd love to hear from you how I see you in your work.
Well, like I said, like Gamache said, I'm a digital media guy. I'm a graphic designer. Mm-hmm. So my work is actually in the message, right? So, but it kind of, the message is first. But then, like, for example, the type, the fonts, that's the second fiddle behind the message. And same thing with me in the TV studio. I'm always behind the camera, so I'm like always the behind the scenes guy. So it's like my work is meant to be seen by the public, right? They want to get the message. I want to get the message to them. But it would be even nicer if they can recognize that I'm behind the message.
Right. But you know that.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point in time, I mean, one of the incredible aspects of art is that apart from signing it, people can begin to look at the body of work that you might produce, or the body of work that you might produce, and say, I recognize, whether it's a director, an actor, a visual artist, a sculptor, or somebody who's working in ceramics, and recognize just by the pieces themselves that this person had a hand in it, or a mind in it, or a heart in it. So, do you get that sense of that already in your work while you're here at Southside?
Yeah, I definitely do. When I've been looking back at my work recently and like putting it all together for college and just in general, like looking at what I've done, and there's definitely a tie between all of the pieces. Like each idea has moved from piece to piece and developed, and it's all one big thing by the end. I can't separate one piece from another. It all looks the same. Well, it doesn't all look the same, but it's all very related.
But it's beginning to develop as something that has your signature on it.
Yeah.
So, I guess what's fascinating is the workbook. One of the more fascinating aspects of IB Art is the role that the workbook, because it really gives you an opportunity to reflect on what you've done. Because you can see yourself developing over time because you're producing it. And so...
And it's also a way, too, that we get to have a dialogue together, because the students will create the work in there, document their thoughts, make connections between what they're learning and what they're doing. And then when we collect it, it's an opportunity for us, too, as teachers, to write back and give feedback to the students. So it's a written dialogue that goes back and forth that helps to really improve upon the interactions that we can have in the classroom as well, because in the classroom, it's like 1 to about 20 of us, and the teacher's running around trying to get to everybody. But with the book, it becomes a one-to-one relationship and communication. And it is a wonderful aspect of the program. And what Caroline was just alluding to is they just mounted their final exhibitions for assessment just last week. And it's my favorite part of the course, and that it does allow a student over the course of 2 years to finally see their full body of work together as one. And for some of them, they have a strong core or sense of artist from almost beginning to end. Others, until they get to see the work physically together, that's when they finally put all of the connections and just go like, this selection of work, wow, this is what I made, and this is who I am as an artist.
Do they select it, or who selects the work?
The students select the work.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. They create about 18 to 20 pieces over the course of the 2 years, some teacher directed, most of it being individualized. And for the final exhibition, they have to select between 12 to 18 of those works to best represent their learning. So there's a curatorial aspect of it as well that's very important to the process.
Yeah. We're obsessed with assessments.
Yes.
So maybe we could just talk a little bit about how the work is assessed.
Yeah, the assessments are probably the most authentic that I've been a part of. I think the IB in general does a very nice job with assessments. It's difficult because it can be cumbersome and labor intensive, but in that I think you get more genuine results. So some parts are internally assessed and externally moderated, so they check our scoring.
I'm not
of
sure that
that.
anybody really knows what that means.
And that's the investigation workbook. So the teachers give
internally
it marks. The teachers mark it. And externally moderated means there are people within IB who look over our work to see if we're meeting and following the standards.
Okay.
And then the other component is externally moderated, which is where the teacher doesn't really have input on or say on what that score is. The IB are looking at their work and they are scoring it according to the assessment criteria. So my job as a teacher is to help guide the students to make sure that they're fulfilling all of that criteria. And then the job of the student, as well as making that apparent in their artwork, after they mount their exhibition, they do about a 10 to 15 minute video where they're talking about their work and they're making their learning apparent. Sometimes some things are very evident in a physical artifact. Other times you look at it as you've gone to museums before and you've gone, I don't get it, why is that here? But then you read an exhibition tag and you're kind of like, oh, now I understand. So that interview is an opportunity for the students to make their learning more apparent as part of that assessment procedure.
All right. Internally, we talk about internal assessment, but Are you different because of this, do you think? Has it really given you an opportunity to feel like you've grown?
Well, totally. I'm even seeing art. I'm doing art outside of IB art, and that comes in the way of broadcast graphics. So, like if you watch this show, The Lower Thirds, I did the lower thirds, and if you watch the morning news, I did all the graphics for them.
Wow.
And if you watch Red and Blue, I did all the graphics too. And there's one common thing between my work in IB art and the outside work, and that is the font. And Gamache knows I have a signature
unique
font of mine.
He's my one and only student in all my years of teaching that has a favorite font designer. And it's one of the things that I find most endearing about Kenny as well. So I'll let you finish talking about that there.
Yeah, so I purchased the font. Who buys the font?
Oh my goodness. Wow.
It's they got 66 styles. It's called Gotham. It's not Batman's. Actually, Gotham is in New York. So the font designer, his name is Tobias Ferry Jones, right? So this actually connects back to the originality thing, because he got his inspiration for the font from looking at all these old signages around New York City. So, and once again, using old ideas to create new ideas. So, I mean, Gotham is like, I feel like it's overused now. It started out as a commission for a magazine and inspired by New York, made in New York and such. And now you see it everywhere. It's like on your every single product, every single news show, every single, poster, advertisement. It's like Helvetica now, if you know what I'm talking about.
Is this a sign that Kenny might be moving on from Gotham?
No, I'm not moving for Gotham.
Okay. How about you?
I definitely think the IB program has changed me, but because I think that we started doing it at a time where it was like crucial for our work as artists, leaving high school and preparing to go to college, and the IB program was just a very good push to get to that, and it brought out things. The way that it was structured, it just made everything I was thinking like very clear. And it connected my work to the rest of the art world, which I think is very important. I never would have done so much research on artists before, and I do work outside as well, and I find myself following certain procedures that the IB has set up.
Do you think both of you will pursue this?
Yeah.
Well, she's doing art. I'm doing architecture.
Oh my goodness. So, it's art.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So both of you are going to use this as a platform for moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what's also interesting is sometimes, not all the time, but most of the time, you learn from one another. I mean, you said there's 45 kids, but everybody does something very individualistic, but at the same time, you share something very much in common. So do you have an opportunity to get together and understand one another, appreciate what each other is doing?
Yeah, I mean, I see what my friends are doing in IB art, and I think that it's interesting to see because we're following the same procedures, and there's so much different work coming out of it, and we're watching the same videos, and we have the same teachers, and everyone's work is so original, and it's complete bodies of work. It's not just a few projects that were assigned to us. It's like everyone has their own style at this point.
And you can appreciate that now.
Yeah, I definitely could appreciate it.
You too?
Totally. I mean, this IB art is different than all the IB classes. Now, I can't speak for other Group 6 courses. I mean, I'm sure music and theater would have some kind of freedom of choice too. But compared to, say, like English or history, right? There's like, you have to read this, you have to do this. There's like the strict structure, right? But IB art is different. You can explore your own interests. You can, it doesn't have to be like someone can like photography, another person likes painting, and then another person likes graphic design, so on and so forth. You can pursue your own individualized program, and that's what's amazing about IB art.
I'm going to have to end on that. And that is what is amazing about IB art. I don't have to say it, you just said it. It is an amazing program. And I really thank the three of you for joining us today. I just hope that all of you come to appreciate the depth of learning that's available to our students here at Southside. And every once in a while we have an opportunity to share that depth with you, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have today. So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye now.